And I do say it's the good type of bad. It's the good type of bad. But welcome to the Weekly Fix podcast, where we're just two friends talking about our passions within movies, TV shows, gaming, and comics. Thanks for checking out the podcast. We hope you like it. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Weekly Fix. We're so glad you're joining us for this episode. We have a review of Venom: The Last Dance, and then episode 6 of Penguin dropped with some, I would say, crazy moments in it, which I'm very excited about. But uh, we discussed in the past about Jacob maybe or maybe not going to the theaters with us to check out Venom, and because he hadn't seen any of them. Jacob, why don't you let us know? Were you able to watch all of your Venom movies, and how was your week?
Yeah, so starting off with the Venom movies, unfortunately, I did catch up and watch all three of them now at this point. So yeah, we'll start with the a little bit there. Unfortunate news that I had to endure those movies, but overall, I had a pretty good week. The new Call of Duty came out as I talked about last week, so I've been enjoying that a lot. It's always fun when one of those drops, and you get to get back into that grind mode of trying to unlock camos and stuff like that. I got some few packages in the mail this week, which are really exciting to open up and get some new things for the collection. That's always fun stuff. And then we also did have, I wouldn't say a failure yet, because we still have another opportunity, and there's a lot of people in the same boat as us, but a little bit of like a maybe kind of breaking news for the podcast. We are actually attempting to try to go to San Diego Comic-Con this upcoming year in 2025. And if you guys are familiar with what happened during that initial ticket drop, it went so terribly that they had to postpone the sale. So we tried, we failed, but we have another day upcoming, and that was really fun to get to hang out with you and try to secure some tickets there. But that's kind of been our week in review, at least for me anyway. How's your week been?
Oh yeah, actually a really good weekend. I really enjoyed just hanging out with you and Peyton, trying to grab those tickets, and then watching Venom: The Last Dance. Getting to experience just a group movie is always fun for me. I
Yeah.
always just enjoy the fellowship. Church on Sunday was great. We had Pastor Dylan speak, and I thought he did a wonderful job. And then we had our fall festival, which was great. We had a bunch of people turn out. Got to paint a bunch of faces. My daughter got way too much candy, did some
Right.
pull-ups. So, it was a really, really good weekend for us. And I know me and my wife enjoyed it a lot and got to hang out with some great friends. So, but yeah, so you say unfortunate. Let's hop into, oh, well, actually, before we hop into Venom, I do want to ask you a little bit of Call of Duty. So Call of Duty is a game of my pastime, but it's a game of your present. So, what in this Call of Duty makes it special from any of the others, or is it just because it's new?
Oh, it's just because it's new. I don't know that Call of Duty will ever really do anything groundbreaking again. It's just such a successful franchise. They have like the Omni movement, stuff like that, but to me, it really is just an exciting time just because it's a new Call of Duty. I wouldn't even necessarily say like I'm really enjoying it, but if you're someone that's like looking for something groundbreaking, this definitely isn't it. Like I said, the Omni movement thing really isn't that much different than what we've gotten in the past. You still have the tactical sprint and all that type of stuff. So it's been fun really just having something to grind. In the past Call of Duty, I had already done everything. So it's been a lot of fun just kind of having a fresh start at something.
Wow. All right. I was just curious because they really pitched that Omni movement like it was like the latest and greatest and most amazing thing.
Yeah, it's definitely not like if you guys are familiar with Call of Duties where we went through the jetpack era. It's definitely not as much as that. Like I feel like that was a lot more groundbreaking than what this is. But it's still been kind of a fun change of pace. I mean, it does change the game a little bit. There is a lot more, I would say, like the flow of the game is a lot faster now. But overall, it's still pretty similar to the previous Call of Duties. Like it is faster, but not too much to where like the jetpacks were like that huge leap forward. This is kind of maybe like a 25% jump, not like you would say that the jetpacks were 100. I would say this is like a 25% change of pace.
Okay. So, which Call of Duty were the jetpacks in? Because I did not experience that one.
Yeah, so the jetpacks were started off with Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, and then we had them in Call of Duty Black Ops 3, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, and I think that's all of them. I think it was just those three, and if I'm forgetting one,
Okay.
you guys can let me know. But yeah, I think it was just those three Call of Duties. I personally love the jetpack era. I thought it was a lot of fun. But yeah, we're kind of back to the boots on the ground like we have been for a few years now, and I really don't see them straying away from that anytime soon.
Yeah, probably not. But maybe who knows? Uh, but all right, that's interesting. I also do have a little bit of video game news, if anyone cares. I did finally beat Baldur's Gate Honor Mode in my last one, so
There we
I
go.
did I did make that leap. I entered the 0.2% of players for Baldur's Gate and completed a campaign without a single party kill.
Yeah, that's awesome. I bet that felt like so accomplishing when you finally did it. You're probably like, yes, it's done, it's over.
It was pretty good, but also like I was like, man, because I kind of skipped a bunch of stuff at the end because I was like, I just want to finish this up. Because I'm waiting for some friends to pick it up and play it. So playing it by myself is not as fun as playing with a full party, even though I still really enjoy it. I probably won't be playing it anymore until we get some more players online.
Which I still think it's impressive that you got as many hours in that game as you did. Because for me personally, like I might have played like a playthrough or two, but you've been really enjoying that game. Is it kind of safe to say this might be your favorite video game of all time?
Um, I don't know. There's so many childhood video games that are really special to me, and then the Fortnite days and Call of Duty Modern Warfare Warzone days are very special to me. Playing a video game solo, I would say this is potentially my favorite solo experience in video game. This is my favorite solo experience
Okay,
in video
gotcha.
games. Um, but as far as like group play and like playing with someone, because even those Ratchet and Clank and Sly Cooper stuff, that was still group events with my brother and my cousin. So like that was not a solo experience, and so that's
Yeah.
still like special to me. But for solo playing by myself, this is by far my favorite video game.
That's awesome that you really got to enjoy. I feel like you've enjoyed this game like to the fullest, and I know you still have a lot of people you're excited to play with. So I think you'll be able to continue to have fun. But just like I said, to be able to get that kind of joy and satisfaction out of this one game, I find that impressive in and of itself.
With no cosmetic purchases, with no add-on, private DLCs. Like it
Lame.
is Larian Studios is not money hungry. They just say, "Hey, this is the price of our game. It's not going to go on sale, but we're not going to charge you in the back end for more than that." So I really appreciate that aspect of it. One of the reasons
Yeah,
I stopped playing Call of Duty.
I think one day they'll eventually have like some sort of DLC pack or something, maybe just to add a few more levels or something. I think would be really fun. Because it took them so long to make this third one. I can't imagine they're even,
They said
you
they're
know.
done.
Oh, really? So I don't
They're
know.
not doing anything. They
I'd be
released the
surprised.
editor, the modder, for the
Okay.
community, and so essentially Dungeons and Dragons said don't make this full like release so that they can do whatever they want because we don't want people modding it to be able to make maps and layers for our game. And
I
Larian
gotcha.
said okay, and then the it was released and like 2 hours later somebody found out how to break it to make it completely full like
Right.
editable. So there's people already who are making new storylines developing it on their spare time, um, which is pretty cool. So the mods for the community are going to well outlast this game for probably at least a decade.
Which is so important to have that community involvement in a video game. That's what ultimately like carries it for years and years. So I think that's super cool that people have been able to get their hands on something like that, especially when a studio comes out and says like, "Hey, we aren't going to be doing any DLC. There's not going to be any additional story missions, none of that." I think that's what makes it more fun and like really helps you just to be able to enjoy it, longer than you would have if you were to just enjoy the normal base game. So I always look at that as a plus whenever there's like a mod community and stuff like that. I personally don't ever really do any mods or anything like that. It's just never been my style. But I do really appreciate the people that take the time to actually do build out these brand new stories and just give people more of something to play.
Yeah, I'm personally not a mod boy either. It just seems a little a little risky. I don't know. I feel odd about doing it. And I've only been on PC for not that long, so that really wasn't a thing on Xbox for me.
Yeah.
At least for my limited knowledge. So, but anyway, that's a good amount of video game talk. We do talk about video games. We say it in the intro. I've got called out to say we don't do it enough. So I wanted to give that little bit. Since we did have some news, we did have some updates. I did get that accomplished. So I wanted to let that know. But anyway, let's get on to Venom. So you said, unfortunately, you did watch the first movie, so you did not enjoy Venom 1 and 2, correct?
I wouldn't say I didn't enjoy them, but like watching them, I don't feel like I really gained anything from watching them, if that makes sense. Like they're fun movies and all that stuff, but I also like now that I have seen them, if this is going to make sense, hopefully it does. If I had known like I never would get to see them, I wouldn't be upset. Like they weren't anything that like made me be like, "Oh, I'm glad I watched those movies." I think they're really just pretty average movies. And I kind of talked about it a little bit with you guys and the friend group we were with. I just feel like these movies really I get what they're trying to do. They're supposed to just be fun action movies, but there's just really not much of a plot going on. It really is laying heavily into the action stuff, which normally I love. Like I think that's fantastic. I love action scenes and stuff like that, and that's where the movies do shine. But there still does have to be some kind of point because what makes those action scenes so good is when the weight of them is heavy. And these just don't really have much weight to them. They just kind of feel like, oh, explosion here, head shoot off here, and stuff like that. So while it is still fun to watch, I just wish it had a little more weight to the story.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty common take. I will say, for me personally, the first one has the most story, and I am including the third one now. Um,
Okay.
I think it had the best story and the most story. Um, and progressively, the action got better from the first one because it was very dark and they were on a very tight budget. Um, so I'm glad that you watched them. I do think they're the best that the Sony has to offer in this Sony villainverse. But I would
Yes.
agree with you. These are average movies. If somebody was coming to me and saying, "Hey, like, recommend a comic book movie or recommend like an action," like this is never getting recommended ever. Um,
Definitely, yeah, definitely not like even top five either. Like, even if someone said, "Hey, I want something with like a ton of action and all that stuff," this
Not a
still
chance this is
isn't
getting
even
recommended.
that. Like, and that's really what I feel like they were going for is like big action scenes and like all this fun stuff. And I do say I think the last one does deliver the most in that respect. But I do get what you're saying. Like, they're just not like they don't really do anything great. They do some stuff okay, but really nothing is like stand movies.
Yeah, and I honestly would say, we made some predictions last week, and I do want to touch on those because I think that does say kind of like how the word of mouth is doing. So your prediction was it 35 million globally? Was that
Yeah,
correct?
I think it was.
Okay, 35 million globally, and I said around 70 million for that. So we both were wrong. It made globally 175 million
Oh wow.
this weekend, and domestically, which I think is probably what we were shooting for more there. Probably like when we think
Yeah,
about it,
30,
what most
35
of the
globally.
weekends say. So I think we're gonna go with domestic. Um, it got 51. So
Okay,
51
so
here
right in
in
the
the
middle.
U.S.
Yeah,
Right,
right in the
right in the
middle.
middle, split it almost perfectly. Um, that's a pretty poor outing for this. I don't think it's going to make its money back, especially with what we're going to say here in just a second. But 51 million domestic is not a great opener for this. It's the lowest in the series by at least 30 million, and so I think that's probably worthy from my standpoint. This movie is fun. And I do want to say that offhand, Venom: The Last Dance, it is a fun time at the movie. I had a very I had a good time. I enjoyed the film. Um, but man, I would say it's some really bad writing. I would say almost everyone but Tom Hardy is phoning it in on this set. And Martin, the person who did Martin, I thought he was doing a fine job with what he was given. But it's not there. I think that's Rhys Ifans. I probably said that wrong. Rhys Ifans. He did a good job as Martin, who is this hippie dude who's in a van. He does a fine job, but this movie for me was the good kind of bad. Like I can have a really good. It's King Kong versus Godzilla. It's there's a lot of stupidity in this. There's a lot of plot holes, but there's some really good action. Well, I wouldn't even say really good action. There's some good action, and there's some funny moments. But for me, this did not hit, and I would say you probably would say the same. Correct?
Yeah, again, it just goes back to I don't think they really did anything well. And like it's kind of sad to say that because I also agree with your sentiment of like it was a good kind of bad. And it's just one of those things like I really did want to like it because I do love Venom. I love the Spider-Man stuff. You know, anytime Spider-Man villains are involved, I think it's going to be really fun and exciting just to see how they have their take on it. But it just like you said, it just doesn't hit for me. And this is kind of like what I've been saying leading up to it. I kind of had this feeling it wasn't going to be anything like spectacular, and it landed exactly kind of like I thought it was going to. It's just kind of there. You know, I wish it would have done more in a lot of different aspects. And we'll get into some spoiler stuff and try to talk about the plot a little bit. And there's one of the things you actually just mentioned is one of my biggest issues with the movie that really bothered me kind of throughout the entirety of the movie. And while it did bring some good fun to it, it also was one of those things I'm like, why is this even in there? So there's a lot of that I feel like throughout the movie that it really just had no structure. You could tell the writing wasn't very good. And like I told you after the movie, I feel like the first hour of it, I'm just kind of like, where are we going? You know, what are we doing? It feels like we really did just get thrown right into it. And that's okay sometimes, but the story has to be good for you to get thrown right into it. When you're just thrown right into something and it really never does come back around, you're like, oh, okay, now I understand. I feel like that's a big miss. And that's kind of what this movie did for me overall.
Yeah. So we are going to kind of go into spoilers to make sure that we don't. This is. Do you want to go ahead and give your rating for those who don't want to stick around for spoilers to see if they kind of want to watch this movie?
Yeah, for sure. We can go ahead and give our ratings, and I'll go ahead and start us off. You know, I was really battling, after the movies we talked, and we were like, what is your initial thought on the movie? And I said, this is like a super, super low 7. Like, if we could give points, it wouldn't be a 7, it'd be like a 6.8 or something like that. And the more I've thought about it, and the more I've had a couple people ask me about the movie, I think it really does. It is a 6. Like, it just doesn't do anything that I was like pumped for. Like I said, the action was fun and all that stuff, but that's only going to get you so far when the action has no weight to it. So that's kind of where I'm at with this movie. I think it might be my lowest rating of the entire year when it comes to movies, but that's just kind of where it is. Like I almost want to say it's the worst movie that I've seen this year, and I think that's saying a lot. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna leave it at a 6, and I think that's where that's. I don't think that's bad. Like it's a movie that I would like. A 6 isn't terrible, but it's also not great. So I feel like 6 is kind of right where this movie fits in.
Yeah. So I think you have a great rating there, and I love that you bumped it down. Because I did the same. I had walking out of this theater. I said this was a 6. Um, I enjoyed myself, but I'm just not gonna watch it again. But I
Mm-hmm.
actually as well have bumped mine down. I'm gonna give this movie a 5,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna give it a 5 because I did enjoy myself. But there were we're about to talk about them in spoilers. Some glaring, and I mean glaring plot holes. There were some poor performances, and one of the leading conveniences for the film just didn't make any sense. So
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna jump into that in spoilers. I will have a timestamp if those of you who haven't seen Venom yet don't want it spoiled because you're gonna see it. I'll say you'll probably have a fun time. It's a brain turn you off movie. So I'm not discouraging you from going, but if you're thinking this is gonna be a great movie, I would put that aside and just go because it's the good kind of bad. Um, but I'll put the timestamps for Penguin in the bottom of the show notes, so you can hop right to there. If you're on Spotify, you can just click Penguin chapter, and you can hear the Penguin talk. But without further ado, I think that's plenty of time for somebody to click off. Do you want to jump into spoilers?
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead and start off. And one of the things I'll talk about that was my biggest issue with the movie, and I agree with what you said about their performance because I think their performance with what they were given was very well done. But I felt like the whole Martin and his family was really just a big miss for me. There was so much about that storyline that I was just like, this just doesn't fit. And I know what they were trying to do. It did bring some comedic relief. It was probably the most funny parts of the movie were when that family was involved. So overall, like that's one of the big things that I've been like thinking in my head over and over again. Like, what could have made this movie better? And I feel like him not being in the movie is what could have made this a lot better of a movie if they could have figured out some other ways to do a couple of things. This just wasn't what I thought was a way to implement something like that. And I know I agree with what you said. I do think that was like their acting was good. it just made no sense to have that family in the movie. And I'd love to hear what you kind of think about that whole family involvement in the movie. And again, it's kind of going to be a little all over the place, but that's one of the things you touched on that you thought was a good aspect of it. And I agree, the acting was good. But did you think it fit into this movie?
So I think part of it fit. I think the real issue is that they went to Area 51. I
Hmm.
think if they just left it when they dropped him off in Vegas, I think no
Okay.
one would have a problem with that because I was laughing hysterically when they were singing Major Tom. And like I wasn't laughing because like it was a good joke. I was laughing because I was like, what in the world am I watching? Like what is going on? But I was still laughing at it. Like it's one of those dad jokes that you don't want to laugh at because it's so bad, but it still strikes you funny. That's exactly how I felt sitting there watching. And so like I didn't mind that part of it. But as soon as they showed up to Area 51 and then the kid crawls in and the dad is like, yeah, let's go. It's just like I'm like, what kind of terrible parent are you? Like this, like you're already like gonna have these like Venom made the joke, lifelong therapy, right? Like for these kids, like, but on top of that, like just letting them go into an active military compound,
Yeah.
I don't know, and without like any presence there from the military, it's just so convenient. And I think convenience the word that I want to like move for most of this, like. Oh man. So there's so much I want to hop into with issues. But yeah, so I think they're fine if they drop him off and never come back. But the
Yeah.
fact that they're in the movie more for me, it is an issue. Like and he's the one that drops the F-bomb for this show. Like, come on, like what's that about? And the violence? I was
Yeah.
crazy surprised this was PG-13.
Yeah, I'm shocked it was PG-13, especially after seeing it because there was a lot of gore and like not really gore, I guess you could say, but
Oh, it
kind
was
of
gore.
like
No, it was
yeah,
gore.
like
People were
they
literally
did
getting wood chipped.
yeah. So like it's just crazy that they like kind of showed it the way that they did, and I kind of agree with what you said. Like I think it could have been a fun part of the movie, and honestly could have helped it. Like because I keep thinking, what did I not like about him? And it's the fact that they do show up to Area 51 at the end. I hate that he's the one that had the rocket launcher that shoots one of the xenophages. I thought that was so stupid. That literally is probably one of the parts I think about the most when I think about things I don't like about the movie. Like, it's just one of those things like this character should not be involved in that type of capacity.
Well, it's
So
convenient that he found one. It's
yeah,
convenient that
like
he got it. Like his kids are literally running for his life, and instead of driving the van away, he runs back, finds a rocket launcher, gets in the spot, shoots the monster, doesn't help anybody, and then runs back to the van. Like, what
yeah.
in the mess are you doing? Like,
Yeah, so that's like and that's what I feel like this movie did a lot of. And I actually like that you did bring up the word convenience because there's another couple of things that like oh, of course it would happen this way, you know? And like I don't think the Mrs. Chin writing was bad. Like I kind of thought it was fun that she is in all three of the movies. You know, she has that little bit of a she's in the movies. I thought that was kind of fun. But it's just kind of one of those things that like it's so random. Like, I guess maybe it makes a little bit of sense for this type of movie, but like, there's just a lot of things where I was just like, I could have done maybe a little bit without that.
well,
So,
so start. Let's go ahead and start off at like the beginning and kind of work our
yeah.
way through this, and we'll just kind of like continue to talk through the convenience. So, first off, we open up, and what is my biggest pet peeve with movies?
Oh, not seeing stuff,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Telling
not
like
being,
they're
yeah, not,
telling, they're not showing,
yeah,
and so we open up with like a 5 minute monologue from Noel, essentially telling us why we're getting a third movie. And that's just like I just don't get it. Like that's not an effective way of telling the film. We're kind of changing the entire course of what the first two movies were to give us a plot for the third one, which the symbiotes do not act like they do in this movie in any of the past movies. It's a complete switch, 180. In no way, shape, or form is this one coherent with the first two. And I would say watching the first two this week and then going to this one was probably pretty shocking. Am I right?
Yeah, no, it was such a change of pace, especially starting off like what you said from the very beginning. I instantly had like bad vibes for the movie when it started like that because it really did just like we don't really unless you're a comic book person, you don't know who Noel is, right? So like and I made the joke, my wife even made the joke. She was like, was Noel supposed to be like the bad guy of the movie? Like she legitimately didn't know because they don't really set it up at all throughout the entirety of the movie. I feel like that it's just kind of one of those things. It's kind of like, yeah, there he is. He does explain a little bit of what's going on. So
But
yeah, the change of pace was definitely there. And then it's like that was one of the issues I had was just kind of be thrown right into it like that.
yeah,
It just
and
didn't
like
make much sense.
and I think like let's say instead of just telling what happened, what if they just had a flashback to showing them imprison him, right? And then they could show them like running. And you wouldn't have to have this. Like you could just show that Venom had the codex, that it wasn't a certain thing that him and Eddie created because Eddie died. That was
Yeah.
such a strange plot hole, and it is a complete plot hole for how the movie ends. It just it does not make sense. And so they could have started the movie off right. And then we find Eddie and he's running from the law and then he wants to go to New York. And so on the plane he's fighting an alien and the alien gets wood chipped through a jet engine. And so for all
Oh
intents and
man.
purposes, I think everyone would assume that alien is dead, including Venom. And so they jump off the plane. Why would they jump off? They watched it like they didn't fall and then he got evaporated. No. He got evaporated and then they jumped. And also leaving the entire plane to potentially die. Dude, I from that
You
get go, I
know,
was like, wait, what is going on?
so like literally the more we're talking about it, I'm having a hard time even trying to figure out a path of how to discuss this movie because like it is just like it is all over the place. And like the more I'm thinking about it, it's like literally just replaying the movie through my mind. I'm like, yeah, that's another plot hole. Like it's just so much stuff I just don't understand what's going on. And like so much of it is just not making any sense. Like you just touched on that part right there. Like these xenophages were virtually indestructible throughout the entirety of the movie. And whenever you have something like that that literally cannot be killed, and then when they finally are killed, you're kind of like, really? That's all it takes. Like that's kind of probably some of the problems I continued to have throughout the movie. It's just like it just didn't make sense. And like that was a prime example of it. You know, you would think, oh, the xenophage is gone. You know, it's been wood chipped through the jet engine. You know, we're just gonna stay on our course. We're gonna stay on our plane, and we're gonna be good to go. But no, we're gonna jump off. And this is one of those things. I feel like they literally did it so they could find a way to turn Venom into a horse and have a fun little scene of him running through the desert and get to play some music that everybody knows and loves.
Which was
That's kind of what
great.
I felt. Yeah, like those are the parts that like we're like, oh, it's kind of fun. But just the way you get to those points, you're like, I just don't agree with that, and I don't like it.
No, and I completely agree. They wrote that scene so that he could get on a horse. And I
Yes.
think the horse scene was fantastic. Like I loved it. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was funny how they got there. I thought like uh like Venom talking to the horsey like quietly. I'm
Yeah.
laughing thinking about it cuz like I thought that was well done. But the writing to get there is just
Yeah. The setup.
atrocious. It's so
Yeah.
bad. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense. And then we meet our family and we talked about that. We had the good moment with Major Tom. How did you feel about that song?
Oh, that was like, and like I said, I love what you said. And, I hadn't really thought about like maybe if they don't show back up after they drop off Eddie in Vegas, they would have been a perfect addition to the movie. It's kind of what I'm thinking about now. I'm like, yeah, they really should have left it at that. But it feels like they just wanted more and they wanted more. But no, I love the little road tripping scene. I just liked a lot of that aspect of it because they kind of do, they felt relatable, right? Like we feel like there's people like that. I mean, I remember a few years ago, I don't know if you remember, people signing the petition that they were going to storm Area 51. Like that's the
Yep.
kind of vibes I was getting from that family, which is always fun to have that kind of like comedic relief and that relatability in a sense. Like you actually know people like that had joked about stuff like that, but they were actually doing it. So that type of stuff was fun. So like I love them in that part of the movie. And I think just going back to what you said, if they leave it at that, they could have been a really fun addition to the movie, but they couldn't leave it at that. They couldn't help themselves. couldn't get out of their own way, and they ended up making it like a more miserable part of the movie. But no, touching on like the Major Tom and all that stuff, those aspects of the movie were really fun. I absolutely loved when he hands Eddie the plate of food after Eddie's been walking through the desert. He's starving, and Venom looks at the food and says, "Yeah, we're not eating that," and just launches it. Like, that's the type of stuff I thought
No
was
thanks.
funny. Yeah, no, I'm not eating that. Like, I thought that was fun. Like, those are the parts where the movie does have its. That's what makes it a bad good, right? Or a good bad. Like, those are the things that made it like that, but they just are too few and far between for all the bad stuff that we did get.
Yeah, it's like a comedian has really good jokes, but he has no way to chain them together. So he
Yes.
just does it in the most like awkward way possible. Um, and then you even touched on the Miss Chen thing. Like, uh, dude, I'm okay that she's at Vegas, but dude, what is up with like the dance and the
Yeah.
flirting? Dude, I just like it's rough. And like Eddie trying to get into the casino, that's a good moment. I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny, clever. It was cool. Um, but yeah, and okay, so I do want to hop back. Like you said, having a hard trouble breaking down this because kind of all over the place. It was super short, and the movie itself wasn't kind of coherent. So maybe the review's not either. Um, but I despise the fact that in the first 20 minutes of this movie, we are told we're essentially never going to see Venom in costume, like in full gear,
Yep.
because if he suits up fully, the codex is happens, and these creatures can now see him. And if he's not in
Yeah,
full
it's
get
not
up, the
there.
creatures can't see anything, like
Yeah,
uh,
that
like at all, nothing. But yet, like they
dude.
destroy military people with with no codex, no problem. But when when Eddie's standing right in front of him, the bug is essentially useless, completely. Dude, what's going on?
Dude, that was another complaint of mine. Like, does the codex just go away when Venom's not fully formed? Like, where does it go? Why can't you see it? Like, oh, dude, it
We
like
put
you said,
somebody in a
it's
prison without a key. Like you imprison Noel, but there's no key. Like the key was created years later. How does Noel even know that there's a codex? Like,
I just don't.
wait, what?
I'm like I said, I'm literally having a hard time trying to figure out how to talk about this movie because like it is hard to like when there's a movie that has no structure and it doesn't even you can't even think about the flow of the movie in your head because they just bounce around the entirety of the time and there's so many plot holes, so many things that don't make sense and it's kind of that age-old thing that you hear about all the time like something happening in a movie just cuz it's convenient, like you use the word convenience. Like this movie is filled with stuff like that. And I think
Yeah,
those are the
ex
things that
dos
just make it
machina.
hard to watch.
Yeah, no, if you are wanting plot, you're wanting storyline, this is not it. Now, let's talk about the action because you said you were happy with the action. I honestly wasn't. I was not satisfied. Um, Eddie running away from creatures, four creatures that are indestructible, on a motorcycle. Like, I'm thinking this creature jumped from the
Oh,
ground
from the ground
and
to the
caught a
plane.
Boeing 747 in the air mid-flight,
They
and
can't catch
four
Eddie
of
on a
them
dirt
can't
bike.
catch him on a motorcycle?
Dude, that's a plot, man. That's it.
Like
That's a
like
plot
the
armor.
cruising speed of an airplane is like over 400 miles an hour, and he's going 35.
Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. It's good. But no, that's one of the things that I'm saying. Like, okay, so talking about the action, I think I just like the aspect of that we got a whole bunch of symbiotes on the screen and we just get to see like punches being thrown, you know, spears being like impaling people. Like that's the type of stuff that I thought was fun. And I love the atmosphere that they were able to create with the different symbiotes. And I feel like they did actually a really good job in that short amount of time of like being like, "Oh man, I don't want to see that symbiote die even though I've never seen him before." Like he seems like he's a cool symbiote. So I think they did a good job with that type of stuff. I like their I do think it was kind of weird to see the change of pace going from like all of these symbiotes in like the first movie where like well at least the one was coming down because he wanted to control Earth and they wanted to have a place that they could feast, but it just so happens that these are the good symbiotes. So like I think that was a little bit random, like Venom and these other symbiotes just so happen to be like good guys, right? But no, I thought that was fun just kind of getting to see them, put aside anything that they had, knowing that if Noel gets out, they're in trouble because it took everything they had to imprison him. So I kind of did think that made a little bit of sense that they were willing to put aside literally everything in this moment to try to stop the one thing that they were most scared of. And I thought that it was really fun just kind of seeing them all work together. We saw a couple of the symbiotes actually fuse together to turn into like a bigger symbiote, and they would do things like that. I loved all that stuff of it. And I thought that was a lot of fun. I like just like I said, I like the big punches being thrown. I can't wait to see like Red Hulk on the screen simply for that reason because I just like those moments in movies. So this one had a lot of that, which I thought was fun. But those parts of the movie are like the ones you kind of like close your eyes for because like it doesn't make sense, and that's what I continue to go back to with this movie. It's just no sense was made. Yeah, like you just touched on, this bug can jump through the air and catch a plane in the air, but it can't catch Eddie on a motorcycle, or it can't even dodge him, jumping off of a helicopter blade and getting ready to slice it in half. Like there's so many things that you're just like, oh, that's convenient, and I just
Well,
hate that that's like the thing about this movie. Like it is so frustrating.
I I I don't like the big punches when I know that they're not big punches. Like, I know there's no
Yeah,
stakes. Like, there's zero stakes. There's nothing that's going to kill these monsters
yeah,
until the convenient plot point at the end where apparently it's acid.
yeah,
What in traditional Spider-Man, what is always symbiote's weakness? There's two weaknesses:
yeah. It's always sound and fire.
sound and fire,
Yeah,
right? They got blown up by a rocket launcher and they're perfectly fine. And like no issue whatsoever. And they have the sound machines themselves.
yeah,
That they only conveniently use
yeah.
when the
Only every
fight is
once in
no
a
longer
while.
exciting for somebody. They're like, oh, this fight needs to be over. Let me use my one weapon that absolutely neutralizes a symbiote with no explanation for why they weren't using it earlier. Um, and then the acid is what does it, dude. I just like it is so frustrating to fight something indestructible
Yeah, that's what I was
for
saying earlier.
30 minutes. Like it was like a 30-minute fight.
Oh yeah, and that's what that's the saving grace for me. Is just because I do love those things. I love seeing fights like that. I like the epic scale of it. Like I think they did a good job with using the battleground and the way that they did it. Kind of having it start underground and then work its way up through the ground, and all that stuff was kind of fun. I thought. And again, I thought it was cool just seeing all the symbiotes go at it and stuff like that. But that's what I was kind of saying earlier when like there's no weight to the fight, right? It kind of goes along with the story point. Like I didn't feel like there was anything to be upset about. Like I didn't want the symbiotes to win for any other reason than just I'm supposed to, right? Like I guess I need the symbiotes to win here.
I
So,
didn't
and then
want
when
him
you
to
also,
win. I wanted to see Noel.
yeah, well, I think we found out pretty early on. I feel like that was just not going to happen. So I kind of
Yeah,
prepared
no, for
myself for that
sure.
one. But no, that's kind of where it was. Like there is no way to this fight. There's no thing that's like they're not trying to kill anyone that we really care about, other than Venom and Eddie. And like obviously they're the main characters, but like they're kind of willing to die if it means they're saving everybody else. So there's just no like that those bugs are literally just going after them for the most part. It just didn't feel like there's any way. And then you touched on not having like being indestructible literally makes the fight no fun because you know that no matter what happens, oh, guess what? It could be in a million pieces, but it just snaps back together like some Legos, right? Like that was just some of the stuff I was like, oh, maybe that'll finally be the blow. And then like 2 seconds later, you see all its body parts laying on the ground and they just start like clicking back together and it's back on its feet. I'm like, all right, this is just kind of like getting to the point of like making no sense as if it already didn't. It's like getting worse.
Well, and there's no hint that acid is going to kill them. Like there's
No.
Venom didn't know that was going to kill it. And also, Eddie never saw that Strickland was the one that had to activate that those tanks were even, there was a spray nozzle in the middle. Like, he had no information about that site whatsoever. And
Dude,
so
this
Venom
movie.
just takes a look and glance and like, yeah, I know how this operates, Strickland. I'm familiar with
He
military
is very
base
smart.
shutdown operations. Dude,
No,
I'm getting
that's like,
frustrated. I like
yeah,
this. This is the reason I dropped it to a 5 because there's so much bad.
Yeah, it is, and it's literally hard to talk about. Like, I don't even know how to like explain this movie to people because it is everywhere. Like, and by all accounts, to me, this movie literally takes place immediately after Venom 2. Like,
Uh, No Way Home.
or after No Way Home. Like, well, even then though, like, oh yeah, because he goes to the trip. Yeah, like it's just like literally when I saw that, like I was hoping there'd be like 2 years later or something like that because it makes the movie a little bit more. But no, it just this is the thing I was talking about. It just throws you right into it. Like that's the kind of stuff I was just like, I just feel like they can't build a story up. It's just kind of we're just going for it, and boy did they go for it.
And dude, I kind of want to get to the end of this because I feel like I'm just hating on it, and I do say it's the good type of bad. It's the good type of bad, but and that's a big but. And like there's just a lot of bad, and I don't want to just hate on this nonstop. So, one other thing I want to hate on real quick was the endings. uh, when they were playing the end song when Eddie's walking through the middle of New York and they're doing all the flashbacks. Like 50% of the flashbacks were from this movie. Like, remember all those good times we had like
They weren't
30
really that
minute
good.
like 30 minutes ago. Like I'm just like you have a whole trilogy. Like you could have pulled it like at least more from the first two. And also like this movie is not deserving of a send off song soundtrack like reminiscing about how good this trilogy was. Like uh, we don't have nostalgia bait for semi good
No,
trilogies. Like I and it's only an hour and 30 minutes. Like it's an
I
hour and
said
30
that.
minutes and we
I
had a
told
full
you.
5 minute flashback of like all the previous movies except half of the movies just this one redone. Guy was talking about it. He's like, I really don't know how it made it out of the editing room. Like I don't think they watched the film. Like I think they were
I
like, we're good enough to put it out. It's a Venom film.
I literally had thought the exact same thing. Like, there's no way. Like, how did they sit there and watch this movie when they finished it, and they were like, "This is a good movie." Like, there's no way they did that. Like, that is not possible. And it just like I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what to say about it. I agree. I don't want to talk bad about it because I gave it a 6. Like, that's not even like a terrible score. Like, that's just an okay score, right? And it was fun just because of the action for me. Like that's the thing that I think is fun about the movie. So if you really like that type of stuff, I think you can find some enjoyment there. But I think that's about the only place you're going to find it because it just doesn't make sense. There's so many plot holes. You know, we'll talk about the very ending plot hole about, you know, we've discovered that with the codex, if they kill Venom and they get the codex, they can free Null. But if one of Venom or Eddie die, then the codex disappears. But at the end of the movie, neither of them are dead. Like it just doesn't make any sense.
And then
So
Noel stands up. Like he looks up and says he's coming for them, but he
yeah,
doesn't have the codex.
so I don't know. I feel bad like saying these things about it. And I've even told you, I told you guys, I feel like this is not a great Tom Hardy performance. I just don't think that this is a role that he should have ever been in.
I
Like I think
disagree.
yeah, and
I
I know
I
you
think he's
disagree with
great.
that. I just don't think this is a role for him. It and maybe he's being told to act like this and maybe it's part of it. It just doesn't seem like he cares at all when he's acting through here. So that's one of the things, the issues I have is it literally does feel like he's just doing it for the paycheck. And I heard him, there was a quote that he said, he was like, I was really hoping that this movie gets like a Logan type send off. Like, you are not deserving of a Logan type send off with this product that you just put on the screen. But no, like, I just think there's too many bad things to discuss about this movie. So I'll leave it at if you like, you know, fun action stuff, give it a shot. But if you are looking for like a good movie, do not watch this.
Yeah. My final review would be if you want a few good belly laughs, some CGI fight scenes without stakes, and you're okay with incoherent plot holes, this movie is for you. It's a fun time with some people that you care about, but in all accounts, it is a less than average film.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like, it's just right where it is for me. I don't even have anything else to say about it. And I know that review was probably all over the place. especially from my end, because I'm just thinking back through the movie. I just don't even know how to talk about it. Like, I've not had that problem with a movie in a really long time. And I guess it's maybe just been a while since I've seen a like legitimately bad movie. But I guess it was about time.
Well, we do have those,
Yeah,
I you know, and it's it's the lowest rated movie I've had in a while. Definitely the lowest
yeah,
rated one on the podcast, and that's sad. That's sad for me.
yeah,
Um, I wasn't expecting this to be great, but I was expecting it to have a decent plot, which it did
yeah.
not. So, but something that does have a decent plot, something that is above average, and something that I am thoroughly enjoying, and that's the Penguin. Do you want to talk about the Penguin?
Yeah, man, let's get into that because that's actually what we're supposed like that's actually a product that's being put on the screen that I'm enjoying. So let's get into some good stuff and get out with all this negativity.
Yeah. And right off, we have something I was surprised about. Now, at the end of in the last episode, we kind of saw them grab the bunker underneath. Full spoilers here for episode 6. I thought it was great. Yeah, if you're enjoying the Penguin, you're going to enjoy this episode, I would just say.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, we got a time jump.
Yes.
That was interesting. Did you see that coming?
No, not at all. I was actually at first I was like, "Oh, this is kind of interesting," but I do think there's a reason for that. I think ultimately the biggest reason for that is we are getting close to this show coming to an end. And we've already been told that the next Batman movie will take place in the winter, and that's definitely what this time jump did in particular. Was I think it was a big changing of seasons. I think that's what they're wanting to do to try to tie this into the Batman. So I was not expecting it, but I'm not surprised now that I've actually seen it, knowing that information about the next Batman movie.
I actually didn't know that information about the Batman movie, but
Yeah,
I I I was surprised at first, and then I'm very okay with it. We saw a time jump, and it was kind of like a short little synopsis where we get to see his new his new setup.
emphasis on
We
the
get
C.
we get to see what's going on. We get to kind of see where they've put their drug, how he developed his new mushrooms. He started from two buckets, and now we're here running the full gamut. Kind of how he's using all the lesser gangs to kind of run his product, and we get to really see that the Maronis and the Gigantes are kind of lost for direction and lost for what to do. And I loved all of that. I didn't expect this time jump, and at first I was like, I don't know. But pretty soon it won me over. Did you like it? Did you
Yeah,
fully embrace it?
I felt the exact same way at first because it did seem really random. Like I was like, oh, we didn't even get like a notice on the screen that said like a couple weeks later, it nothing. It just literally does speed up. Which at first I was like a little bit guarded about, but the way they do tie it together, I think it is fun. I think they do a good job of kind of showing that the Maronis and the Gigantes are struggling. Like they kind of are at a loss of what to do. They've lost some major players that were a part of their family. Obviously, the Maronis, he lost his wife and his son. We obviously know what Sophia did to her entire family. So there's just kind of a lot of figuring out going on. But I love that they used that as an opportunity that I guess Oz knew that. Like he knew that they were going to be scrambling. And we get to see that he really just kind of takes control of the drug game, which I thought they did a really good job of kind of showing that, like, oh, he's got these people working for him. Bliss is being fully delivered and, brought out to the public. I really like that they use that as a way to show where Oz has gotten in such a short amount of time by taking advantage of the things that he set up.
Yeah, and they did a great job with that. And kind of even like a little bit later, he's getting threatened by Sophia. She kills some of his distributors, and kind of trying to send a signal that like you can't push drugs, and he makes the move to give it out for free to try to get
Mm,
everyone hooked on it. That's kind of just what I think was brilliant. Like that's good writing. Like it's somebody who sees a problem and uses a unique solution in order to accomplish the mission. And he's already swimming in cash from this stuff. Like he's not a greedy man in wealth wise.
mm,
He likes nice things, but he cares more about power than he does about wealth. And
yeah,
that's a power move. That's someone who wants the people to love him. In this one, we get to see Victor and Oz several times Oz tells Victor, they're gonna know my name. They're gonna know our name. And I thought that was cool that we're just still fully embracing that. He's still just the guy who wants to be the beloved gangster of the city,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's cool.
Yeah, and they did a really good job of implementing that into this episode in particular. I'm still continuing to love Victor's involvement in the show, and it's kind of crazy to me that I'm enjoying that character as much as I am, because generally those type of characters, I'm kind of like, oh, they just feel like a hindrance. He does not feel like a hindrance at all. Big shout out to the actor and the role he is putting on in this show. He's just done a phenomenal job of really making you care about the character and really making you feel like his story is important and his involvement is very important. And I love the relationship between him and Oz. It really is a fun little, deadly duo they have going on. And we did get to see one of my predictions come true this episode, not quite in the way that I thought it was going to, but I thought it was fun that we finally got to see Victor claim his first life and got to see with kind of how he dealt with it and how Oz kind of walks him through it a little bit. And Oz knows immediately what happens when he comes to him and tells him about what happened. I thought that was a really good scene, kind of him whispering in his ear, it gets easier. I thought that was a really good scene to kind of show that Oz really is a villain. Like, he is trying to be this good gangster, but he is 100% okay with killing when it needs to be done. And he's really trying to instill that in Victor. And I kind of just love that dynamic between those two right now.
Yeah, great scene and great moment, but I hate it. Like,
Yeah, I know. I knew you were
I,
going to hate it.
I was like, man, Vic, you should have just brought him to Oz, and Oz could have popped him right in front of you, and then you could have dealt with that. Like, you didn't have to take it yourself. You could have stayed. You could have stayed at least a little bit of a good. And I know he struggled with it. I'm like, I think you're right. I think Renzi Feliz is killing this role.
Yeah.
And it's a good moment. Like, I can't deny it. Like, it's really good. But I do hate it. I was really hoping that he was potentially going to be someone who got out, who was in it and got out, but I feel like he's probably potentially not going to make it out of anything. How do you feel about the end there with Sophia?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting thing that's happening right now. And as soon as I heard that door open, because you do hear it, they make it very intent for you to hear it. And I feel like Victor's just kind of like, it was nothing. Maybe it was another apartment door or something like that. And, we get that little scene of Victor dancing with Oz's mom, which really heartfelt scene. We've kind of really seen their relationship grow a lot here in the last few episodes. And I really like that little bit of a story touch that we're getting. But, they're dancing. The power's back on after Oz made another power play to get the power turned back on in Crown Point. Hear that door open. You kind of just continue to see them dancing. And the way they're angling that camera, I just kept waiting for someone to walk around the corner or something to happen. And they keep making you wait. And you're like, oh, maybe there wasn't a door that opened. Maybe it really was just something we heard. And then lo and behold, Sophia has found kind of their hideout, not necessarily the more important of the hideout. Like, obviously, the underground is probably the more important aspect of it. But for Oz, she found the more important item, which is his mom and the connection that he has to his mom. And I love that they kind of touched on that throughout the episode. Like, Sophia says, oh, that's his greatest strength is he doesn't love anybody. He doesn't have anybody. Because she's aware, she thinks his mom is dead. And she just walked into this gold mine of, oh, he has two people that he really, really does care about. And I just thought that was such an epic way to end this episode. I'm really interested to see how Sophia deals with it because Sophia does have a side of her that is a little bit more, we do see her save the little kid and doesn't let her die when she kills the rest of her family. We've seen her kind of do these things throughout the show where she like shows a little bit of heart. I don't think this is going to be one of those moments, but I am interested to see how she does deal with this newfound knowledge that she has.
I I think the only way she doesn't is because she has a relationship with Victor and she knows
Yes.
Victor. I think Victor may keep her from killing Francis, his mom.
Yeah.
Uh but I think that's kind of it. I think if it was just her, I think she's gone. Like I think she hates Oz so much.
Hmm.
Um and maybe she hates him enough that she's going to kill Victor and we get the plot twist that we didn't see coming If Victor dies, I'm going to be very upset.
Oh, I will be so sad. Like, not even just for like a story point, but he's like such a highlight of the show right now. Like, I
Oh,
love
for
his
sure.
character. I love the aspect of like we haven't even touched on. You touched on the hideout a little bit, but I love the way that they're using like the motorcycles to get in and out. And we've seen Sophia and the Maronis talk about like they just disappear. We don't know where they're going. It's because they're disappearing underground. Like, I love those little aspects of it. We really kind of see Victor is kind of taking on like second in command. You hear Oz tell him about how important he is, how much he needs him. He's kind of the one delivering to like the higher end people. I just love that aspect of the show, and I just don't see them killing Victor. But what do good shows do? They always do the unexpected. And so like that's one of those things I'm like, I don't see it coming, but like if it happens, I don't know what to do. So like I think that's what this show has done so well is they really keep you thinking. You don't know what's going to happen next. And I'm just pumped to see what does end up happening because I think I don't know how many is there supposed to be 8 episodes of this show, so we
Uh,
potentially have two more.
we have two more
Yeah.
episodes.
So I don't know what's gonna happen, and they're just doing such a good job with that. And man, I don't know if Victor dies, I'm gonna be upset right there with you.
I'm going to make the call and say he doesn't. I'm going to
Yeah,
predict and say he doesn't. I would say that she captures him, potentially kills the mom. I don't think his mom is making it out of this. I don't know
yeah,
if she kills her then, but I feel like she uses both of them as bait and kills Francis because she doesn't care about her. Um, but she does have a semi relationship with Victor at least. So that's my prediction. But I really loved her interaction with Eve and how she showed that even one of Oz's closest, like, I guess concubines, I don't know, Eve doesn't know him fully, and that he is willing to betray whoever, whenever, for his own self promotion. You know, he falsely identified Sophia as the murderer and allowed Carmine to continue to kill her girls, as she would say. Uh, and he knew the whole time, and she's just there, dragged along. And that revelation to her, you could see it, you could feel it. And I mean, that's why Sophia found their little vacation home
hmm
in the slums, is because of that revelation that Oz is just the worst. He's so bad.
yeah, no, I thought that was a really great scene. And I do love how she really does kind of the only person in the show that genuinely cares about her family. I feel like, she was like, hey, I'll let you kill me. Like, literally, you can kill me. Just don't hurt the rest of my girls. Like, I did like that aspect of the show. I thought they did a really great job in that scene. And that was a very tense scene as well. I think everyone's just killing it, man. The acting is top notch in this show. I do got to agree with you, though. I don't think Oz's mom makes it out of this, and I'm kind of looking forward to that moment coming true because she does feel like the hindrance to me. Like when
Oh,
she's on the
dude.
screen, I don't mind that she's on the screen. I think that actor's doing a phenomenal job portraying the role she's portraying. But I'm ready to see what Oz does when he really does have nothing left. Like I want to see that aspect of him because he already operates so close to that. But he's got one big secret and one big thing that he's really trying to keep safe. And I really kind of want to see him kind of just go unhinged. And so I hope that we get to see that before this show wraps up. And I hope that's not something that either continues into a season 2 or maybe into the next Batman movie. I do really want to see what that Oz looks like.
And I completely agree. I think she's been pretty good for most of the show. But for this episode in particular, there's just way too much.
Yeah,
I don't I mean, this feels harsh, but I just don't care about her story.
yeah,
Her time is past. I understand there's emotional weight there. I understand we're gonna get that payoff. We didn't need this much of her in order to get that. The only way I felt like her amount of showtime was, I guess, earned is if Oz would have killed her like she asked.
yeah,
If he would have killed her this episode, like she asked him to do, then I feel like her presence on this episode, for as much screen time as she took up, would have been a little bit more warranted. But the fact that he didn't, I don't know. And maybe that's, dude, maybe that's gonna happen in the next episode, is that Oz knows she wants to die, and he just says, whatever. you know, like just let Sophia kill her, and he doesn't go unhinged because like he knows he knows she wants to die anyway, and she asked him to kill him. So he's like, "Oh, dude, now I don't have to do it, and someone else does. Even better." I have no clue. That just seems like a pretty awesome move. Um, I mean, she literally begged him to kill her, so why wouldn't he do that?
What I think what I could see happening is maybe they do end up capturing his mom, and maybe he goes to get her. Maybe they make some sort of agreement, like my life for hers, and he ends up just killing her right then and there in front of everybody, just to kind of like get it over with. I honestly think he might even be the type of character that he wouldn't want someone else to kill her. If someone was going to do it, he would want to be the one, especially since she asked him to do it. I really kind of want to see how that does play out because I think it is something that's going to happen. I don't think they would have devoted such a big scene to it and put so much emotional toll on that scene for it not to end up happening from Oz's hands. But I am excited to kind of see how that does come about because she did ask if, he continues to lose more of her mind, then at that point do it. It didn't seem like she was quite asking him to yet. So I'm kind of
Oh,
interested to
dude,
see when that happens.
I thought she was straight up asking.
See, I just think she was like, when it time comes, you promise you'll do it. That's what I kind of got from that moment. So maybe that time comes not even from her losing more of her mind. Maybe it comes from her being locked up, and she's just obviously not deserving of that. She doesn't deserve to be locked away in a cold cellar somewhere under the Falcons or the Gigantes supervision. I think that would kind of be the moment for Oz where he would feel okay doing it, is when, she's where she doesn't need to be. And she's right there at this point with Sophia having found him, standing in the door with a crowbar. Oh, man, this next episode is going to be really fun.
It's going to be a blast, and I look forward to it every day. Um, Chelsea, we got home from Venom, left the last dance, and she was like, "You know what tomorrow is?" And I was like, "Church." And she's like, "Yep," and the Penguin. so,
Yeah. No, the
so
show has done such a good job of like really putting itself out there for a broader audience. Like it is not just appealing for comic book nerds. Like my wife is absolutely loving this show. Like she looks forward to it every Sunday as well. So I think they're doing such a good job. I think we've sang its praises, and I think it's just easy to continue to do when it's as good as it is.
yeah, and I'm very much looking forward to see like if our predictions do come true. If she kills him, murks him, she doesn't. I don't know. And another point that we didn't talk about, but was Oz's kind of unhinged moment with the senator. I thought that
Yes.
was so good. Just getting to see his viciousness and what he does when people underestimate him and don't show him respect. He gets very offended. He does not
Yes.
handle that well.
No, and I love that. Like, I just, those are the moments that make the character so fun. Another scene I completely forgot about to mention, which might have been my favorite scene in the whole show, is when he gets all the gangs together and he puts on that speech for them. Great shows have that moment where someone goes on a tremendous, like, just the script is perfect, the moment is great, and the actor delivers. And this was that show for me. I think back to in Star Wars, Andor. We had two of those moments. We had one when Kino is getting them out of the prison. One of those moments where you're like, that was just perfect. And then we have the other one when his name, I'm forgetting his name right now, but when he gives the speech out on like the balcony type thing to the one guy that's his spy, like those are those moments that kind of stick in your head for a really long time. And I feel like this was that moment for me that I'm going to keep thinking about. It's going to be one of those things I look up on YouTube. It's so fun to see when actors are given a script and they really, really rock it. And that was that moment for me where I was like, oh, that was such a cool moment. He's got all these gangs believing in him. He's getting some more firepower under him, and he just delivered an awesome speech. And I loved that scene.
Yeah, no, absolutely great scene. Cool moment too for delivery. The use of popping a top to show unity.
Yeah,
I don't know. I thought it was really cool. Very good. And getting the triads on his side is such a huge moment. I mean, that's almost, I would say, counterbalancing more powerful than both of the families, especially considering how bad the Maronis are hurt and the
yeah.
Gigantes. I mean, I know she got all that firepower in that room with that money. That money's gonna dry up. She's not pushing anything, and it seems like they're outmatched. I'm just gonna say it.
Yep. And it's gonna be fun to see how they're gonna have to flip the table somehow, and whether that be, you know, taking his mom and really kind of making him do what they want him to do. Like, there's just so many possibilities. I'm just pumped. It's just so good. I don't even know what to say anymore. Like, it's just so good.
I'm just sad we only get 2 more weeks.
No, I don't even know what we're gonna do, and we don't even know of any other projects that are going to be taking place like in this universe. Like, I guess it's just the Batman 2 that we have to wait on, and that really sucks because I feel like they've really built something special in this universe with the Batman movie, and now the Penguin just absolutely blowing it out of the water. I just want more of it. Like, I really, really want more of it, and hopefully, it's something that we continue to get more spin-offs of and other stories to be told because I just think it's deserving of it at this point.
I'm okay. I'm okay with this being it. I think this is how you build it up. I think uh we're getting two DCU universes, so I'm okay with this being what all we get in this universe. As long as it stays incredibly high quality, incredibly detailed, precision storytelling, keep this one pristine, and James Gunn, you can take the other one and kind of experiment. So
Yeah.
it's kind of how I'm feeling about this because I mean we do have so much other stuff going on. You talked about it with Marvel projects. You didn't want a movie every other month and a show every other month.
Mhm.
You got other stuff to watch, and I would agree with this universe. This this level of dark and gritty, I only like in sparing amounts. Like I'm gonna need a light show after this, and we have Doom Prophecy coming, which I don't think is gonna be it. Like,
No, I don't think so. And that's something we have to really look forward to because that's another show I'm super pumped about. But yeah, no, I agree. They do need to take it slow and continue to build. Like, this wasn't built in, like, it's taken them time just to get to this point. It just, I'm like, man, I don't even think the Batman 2 starts filming till next year. It's just going to be such a long wait. And I'm like, oh, I wish we'd get more of it now. But I'm enjoying what we've got for now. And I'm excited just to see where it goes.
yeah, and I do get that, but man, fun time. I mean, we really didn't have much to talk about, but we really,
We
I
always
mean,
stretch it out. We always
we
stretch
do
it
it.
out.
We always bring, at least 40 minutes of content, guys. I every time I think it's gonna be like a little bit shorter, I look up at the clock and I'm like, oh man, we're 40 minutes into this thing. Um, but I absolutely love it because I mean, we really enjoy this stuff, and so it's fun to break it down for you guys. But I think that's all I got to say about Penguin. We don't have anything else this week that we plan to talk about because we did have this show and Venom. I knew Venom would take some time, but do you have anything else to add?
Nope, that's it for me. If you guys aren't watching Penguin, I don't know what you're doing, and be careful with Venom.
Yeah, yeah, it'll stick to you.
Yep.
But yeah, it's gonna do it for Weekly Fix. I really appreciate you guys sticking out, listening to the show week in and week out. We love doing it because we had the Venom drop this week. We did delay Comic Corner till next episode, so we're gonna do that one next Tuesday. Look forward to that, where we are covering all things War of the Realms. So that'll be a side piece for next week, but we're excited about it. Thanks for joining the Weekly Fix.